Grace and peace, everybody. Putting on the righteousness, the robe, the wedding garment to be a part of the marriage supper of the Lamb. It's in Revelation 19 that we see the prophetic supper. It's in Matthew chapter 22 that we see the promise through a parable that Jesus says. Do you want to know what it is and what that experience is like of putting on that wedding garment? We got to go back to Romans. We still got more good news. Before we get to that, though, we want to pray. And Father, I ask that you would help us to see the glory of wearing this robe, what it really means when we really believe that we are free and forgiven. In Jesus' name, thank you. Amen. Let's go back to Romans for a moment. Romans chapter 4 is where we left off from the previous study. And we were trying to understand what it means to wear the garment. And we were introduced to the concept of imputed righteousness, how that's a word that we rarely use today, but we do understand the concept. It's when something is counted or credited to us. That's what happened in Genesis chapter 15 to Abraham. And it's here that David mentions, he talks about the blessedness of the man who has received this imputed righteousness, this garment, this gift that is freely and wholly given. Now let's look again at the experience of wearing the robe, because it's here in verse number 6. It says, even so, or even as David also describeth, the blessedness of the man unto whom God imputeth righteousness without works. So what does it mean to impute this righteousness? What does it mean for us to receive it and wear it? Look at verse 7, saying, blessed are they whose iniquities are forgiven and whose sins are covered. This is what it means to wear the robe. We said it and we say it. It's trusting in Jesus. It's trusting in his righteousness. To what extent, though? Trusting in Jesus and trusting in his righteousness to the extent that I believe that my iniquities are forgiven. Why? How? Because Jesus died for them. I believe wearing the robe, that means I believe that my sins are covered. It doesn't mean that I never did it. It doesn't mean that I'm not guilty. It doesn't mean that I'm not convicted of those crimes. What it says there is that I also believe now, just as much as I know I'm guilty, I know that God is good. And I know that the grace of Jesus has covered those sins. This is what it means to wear the robe. This is what it means to sit at the feast in peace. Because remember, we read at the beginning of the chapter in Romans chapter 5, verse 1, we have peace with God our Father through our Lord Jesus Christ. It is what he has offered us. And then what we in turn accept is wearing the robe. One more verse before we wrap this up. It says here, blessed is the man to whom the Lord will not impute sin. Wearing the robe is to be blessed. It's to no longer be under the condemnation of the law. It's to no longer be under the shadow of the condemnation that comes from our guilt. It's no longer to walk in shame. It's no longer to walk with our heads down. It's no longer to walk looking behind our back. It's no longer to walk in fear of the future because of our faith in what he has done with our past, our present, and our promise. That's right. When we accept the robe, your future becomes a promise, which means that the trajectory of your life and whatever we go through and wherever we go to, it's always upward. It's always onward. It's not just forward, because everybody's going to go forward. But without Christ, we all go forward, downward. There's this slope. There's this slow burn, this slow fade, or this ebb that we don't even recognize. Even today, when you think about why people are doing what they're doing, they don't even recognize the darkness because they don't know the light. But when we're in the light of Christ, when we're wearing the robe, the Bible says that you go from being burdened to blessed, from faulty and frail to free and forgiven, just because you put on Jesus. I hope that this is now becoming more practical verbiage. Wearing the robe is to believe I'm forgiven. My sins, my transgressions, and my iniquities, even my sin. Because wearing the robe is about not just changing what we do. Wearing the robe of Christ changes who we are. We'll talk about that more in the next study. Hope you're there.